Hey everyone, Goofyword here, back with another EDH deck tech. Today we're going to be talking about a Lifegain deck, and one that actually tries to win the game instead of just gaining a ton of life, sputtering out, and losing without actually accomplishing very much. Let's take a look. One of the cool things about Lifegain is that there are payoffs in every color. White is the only color that's really not optional because there are just so many good ways to gain life and to benefit from gaining life in white. Depending on your budget and your personal preferences, you could make this a mono white deck with Linden, the Steadfast Queen, as the commander. You could make it an Orzhov deck with Elenda, the Dusk Rose. But any of the other colors can be included if you're interested. If you want to make an Esper deck, you can use Oloro as the commander. For this deck, we're going to go with the Abzan build, which will feature Ikra Shadiki and Timna the Weaver. Both of these commanders care about life. Timna the Weaver has lifelink and draws cards, and Ikra Shadiki will gain us life based on the toughness of the creatures we attack with. What sets this Lifegain deck apart from others is the fact that gaining life is what triggers all of our strong abilities, compared to just wanting to have a lot of life because having life means you're further away from losing. We have many cards that trigger whenever we gain life, so we're going to try and gain one life as many times as possible for various actions throughout the game. A great example of this is Linden the Steadfast Queen, which is going to gain one life every time one of our creatures attacks. With all of our different creatures and effects that resolve when we gain life, we're going to get 4, 5, 6 triggers from Linden every time we attack with our team, meaning that we'll trigger those good effects several times instead of just one time. If we were to gain 10 life all at once, it might trigger our stuff once, but we're mostly using effects that care about multiple small increments of life gain. Some of the cards that will give us multiple small increments of life gain are Ancestor Dragon, which gains one life every time one of our creatures attacks. The Soul Sisters package, which is Auriok Champion and Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant, because these will gain us a life every time a creature enters the battlefield. Righteous Cause is an enchantment that basically makes it so we have an extra Linden or Ancestor Dragon on the battlefield. It says whenever a creature attacks, you gain one life. Shattered Angel basically has the reverse landfall trigger to gain us 3 life whenever an opponent plays a land. What really makes this deck hum are all of the cards that care about gaining 1 life at a time, or rather, care about gaining life many times, instead of gaining a lot of life 1 or 2 times. Ajani's Pridemate is kind of the baseline creature for what I'm talking about. Ajani's Pridemate gets a +1/+1 counter every time we gain life. But there are several other creatures that are similar to this, but have more powerful effects. Some of the payoffs for gaining life many times are Cliffside Vampire, which says every time we gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. Epicure of Blood is a 5-mana 4/4 that says the same text as Cliffside Vampire. Every time we gain life, each opponent will lose 1 life. Because we're gaining life in these small chunks, if we gain life 6 times from attacking with Linden or Ancestor Dragon on the battlefield, that's 6 separate triggers for the Cliffside Vampire, draining our opponents for 6 while doing something we wanted to do and gaining that life. It's pretty powerful. There's also Archangel of Thune, a flying 3/4 that puts a +1/+1 counter on every creature we control every time we gain life. So if we have Linden on the battlefield with Archangel of Thune, attacking with 4 creatures means giving our entire team a permanent +4/+4 buff, which obviously turn over turn is going to overwhelm our opponents even if we don't have that many attacking creatures. Dawn of Hope is another card that cares about gaining life many times because it's going to give us several triggers to draw cards. One problem that this kind of deck typically has is that it will run out of gas and then just be top decking for a lot of the game. But with Dawn of Hope, you know you're going to be able to pay 2 every time you gain life to draw an additional card. This is going to add up really quickly since we're gaining life in those 1-point swings. Gideon's Company is like a souped-up version of Ajani's Pridemate. It's a 4-mana 3/3, but every time we gain life, we put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, instead of just 1. Heliod's Suncrowned is a way to turn all of those small life gains into permanent advantage, because it says every time you gain life, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on a creature or enchantment that you control. It also has the ability to give a creature lifelink for only 2 mana. There are several other cards that are going to gain +1/+1 counters whenever we gain life, and all of these cards can be a potential game winner on their own. Each one of these threats is going to grow so quickly when we're gaining one life at a time, several times per turn, that your opponents are going to have to wipe the board or have single target removal pretty much throughout the entire game, or else they will just lose. Each one of your threats is going to grow to be a lethal force. Light of Promise and Sunbond are both auras that basically turn any creature into Anijani's Pridemate, but a little bit better because they give you +1/+1 counters equal to the amount of life you gained instead of just one per instance of life gain. Although we're using these smaller creatures that grow really quickly with life gain, we do still have some of the traditional life gain payoffs. We're going to play Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond, even though it's kind of a played out combo. It does win the game, so we'll include that. We're also going to include the new card Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, because it's kind of another version of the combo. If all else fails, we can always turn to the classic Aetherflux Reservoir, which, after all this life gain, is going to be really easy to activate and take our opponents out of the game. Life gain decks have kind of a bad reputation for gaining you a ton of life but not actually progressing the game state forward or getting closer to winning. The aim of this deck is to change that by putting you in a spot to not only gain life, but win the game quickly with your powerful effects. It won't take long when you're attacking with an Archangel of Thune to put the game behind you and just move on to the next one, instead of getting up to 200 life, but then realizing you have no actual way to finish the game. I hope that you enjoyed this deck tech, and maybe it inspires you to want to try a deck similar to this one. Leave me a comment if there's an archetype or style of deck that you would want to see me cover next. Until then, I'm Goofyword. Have a great day.